in your opinion, what differentiates a good speaker from a world-class speaker?
I would like to answer this question from a guest that I had on my show, on my podcast. So you can check out my podcast. It's called Breakthrough with Lusea Lu, where I interviewed successful entrepreneurs who have really built a thriving business around their passion and purpose. And I remember this one guest. He is world's #1 interpreter from English to Chinese. So he's the guy who interpreted for Richard Branson, for George W. Bush, for Tony Robbins. And then I asked him this question. I said, Fred, you have only been around successful people. What makes successful people stand out from successful people? And he said, it's the heart to serve. And I would say at the core of any speakers, we're all here to deliver a message for the sake of the audience to change their lives, right? I mean, you guys don't sit here to listen to how great I am. You guys sit here because you wanted to get information that can be helpful for you, that you can take into your lives. And then the world-class speakers, they always, always, always have their audience in mind. And they have reached a level of crystal clarity of how to deliver that message in a way that is so simple, so concise, that the audience are like, wow. Not only am I inspired, they're like, it's like this brain just opened up. It's like they make the audience believe they can actually do it. That is what I find makes world-class speakers.
Very interesting. Now, we talk about business. I mean, this is a business conference. And public speaking is something that all entrepreneurs should take on and master. But let's just go into more details of why they should do it. Why is it so important? Like, I don't know how many of you are... and I'm going to do some advertisement here, but part of Toastmasters. If you haven't heard of them, then I would recommend you to check that out. But why is it so important for entrepreneurs to master public speaking and how it helps them?
Because you don't have a choice. If you have a mouth, you speak, don't you? And then think about this. Like, what is how much it sucks when everybody have a mouth and you do too, and yet somebody's mouth is more valuable than yours. Somebody's voice is more valuable than yours. When every one of us have that tool, it's like we all have 2 eyes, we all have 2 ears, we all have, like that is the tool that you can use. So if you have that, why not use it to the maximum? Especially when you are an entrepreneur, you're probably in the business where you need to sell stuff. You need to influence people. You need to impact people. If people only give you 5 minutes, how well can you use that 5 minutes to sell your knowledge, to sell your information in a way that people buy into it? That's why you need to be mastering speaking, because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that I have seen so many directors and high-level position people, and when they have to stand in front of their own people, so not like strangers, then that's their biggest fear of actually speaking, and then stuttering starts, and then they can't really say anything. So that, I think it's really, really important. Now, you come from an entrepreneurial family, and then your parents had 100K debt, and then from there they grew over to 8 figures over 15 years, if I remember well.
Yeah.
But what successes they have that inspired you, and you've been able to use that to create your own success?
I wanted to answer this question a different way. I know a lot of times we all glorify success. because we all want to be successful. But there's nothing more valuable than failure. It's how you deal with failures that make you successful. I remember what I have learned, because my why I'm in business is because I want my father to be proud of me. Everything I have ever learned about life, about business, come from that man. I'm a daddy's girl. I don't know how many of you have daughters that you have, father and daughter just have that very special bond. And my dad was the guy who people didn't believe in him, and then yet he made it. And I remember he died of cancer. So one of the biggest thing I learned was somebody's legacy is actually more important than the material things that he accumulate. So we are actually, many of you may be wondering, like, how did you able to make like a figure? What kind of business is this? So my parents started a network marketing company. How many of you know network marketing? So it's like Amway, my parents started it, we owned it, and then we have agents. And then, so my dad always treat the agents like their family, like our own family. So we sold health supplements. So as you can imagine, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, that a president who sold health supplements and diagnosed with cancer, what kind of impact it will have on the business. And my dad actually just told me, because I work in the company, and he said, I don't want you to tell anybody. So for 2 years, I went to in and out of hospital with my dad and seeing him wither away and died of cancer. And that was so difficult. And yet, what I have observed is when a man is so passionate and so burned for his mission, he will give his life for it. Like for him, it's more than just about the money. It's about changing the lives. And I think that was the legacy that I bring with me. And I think that is the key of success, is you gotta have a fire and a burn, a why that is bigger than yourself.
You mentioned failures, and I'm so keen to know that what was your biggest failure, or what would you count the biggest failure for yourself, and how you were able to turn that around?
I think the biggest failures we can all have is to keep repeating to ourselves a false story that keep us where we were. So when after my dad passed away, he left me with a company to run. Immediately after his death, I was assigned as a general manager. I was only 26-year-old. I had no clue how to do it, and I was still grieving because nobody knew that the president passed away. So I have to broke the news to people that why he passed away. I have to explain everything. And I was too young. I wasn't able to take over the company. And for 10 years, I remember, I would be striving on the outside to take all the lessons and then talk to all the trainings. And yet on the inside, because I felt like I failed my dad, I keep telling myself that I was a failure. And then that was the story I keep repeating to myself. And I wonder what was maybe some of the stories that you tell yourself about why you couldn't succeed. And I realized that was the biggest failure, is to tell yourself a bullshit story to keep yourself where you are and not moving forward.
Now, my last question is about your recent, I don't know whether I should call it a project or more like something more, because I believe it's something more, it's your vision, is your podcast. And I do remember that I heard this woman coming onto Facebook Live, the very first Facebook Live, and she wasn't sure how she's going to do it. And I think that you've been like, I wouldn't say broken, but very unsure that is this something. And then you turn it into something not just great, but you have interviewed like, I don't know, over 50 people from all around the world. And then if you are releasing it, like, I think that 2 people are coming every week. So what's your mission with this?
So I have a podcast, as I said, Breakthrough with Lusea Lu. It's because I believe that entrepreneurship is really a journey. And so often we are so drawn to the social media world of just the surface. Look at the image, look at my food, look at my jet, look at my house, look at my mansion. And yet, if you are really an entrepreneur in the grind, you would know entrepreneurship is hard. Entrepreneurship is a journey. And how often that people actually tell you the dark side of the story, right? Like, people don't talk about it because people don't want you to think less of them. So the project that I'm doing with Breakthrough with Lusea Lu is I really wanted to change the paradigm of conversation and make, it's not like a pity party, talk about my failure. It's not that. But it's, can we be real with the conversation about really what it takes to be successful? And I think that when we speak the truth, when we really show everything about this journey, then we can really inspire change, because then people are not just following the image, but people really know the real story and then what it is that they can do to change.
So I would recommend you, all of you, go to iTunes. It's free, so you can listen to it. And I think the next one is coming out Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Wednesday. So make sure that you listen to it. Lusea Lu, thank you so much for coming to Hungary.